Brooklyn's historic The Black Lady Theater is now taking bookings. Host your next birthday party, concert, networking event, baby or bridal shower, wedding, art show, gala, corporate event, live stage play, audition, and so much more. At the one and only The Black Lady Theater. Mention code Godcast for 15% off your rental fee. Code good for the first time customers only. Valid for a limited time. Call 718-771-0900 to book your event today.
Peace. Today is Friday, May 17th. Making today's math.
Knowledge God, all being born to build, destroy.
That's right. Use your knowledge of God to build on positive and destroy negative. Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to Yanadameen Godcast.
I'm Lord Jamar.
I'm Digga.
We got
Vlad in the house.
DJ Vlad.
Say that name with
DJ Vlad.
There you go, man. Come on, man. DJ Vlad. Like, come on. When you start your shit, hey, welcome, man. You know what I mean? When you at your, come on.
Yeah.
You on duty right now, the Godcast. Let's go, baby.
That's right.
My bad.
Thank you once again for coming through the fucking show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Always glad to have you here with us, to kick it with us. Before we proceed, if you'd like to donate to the show, go to cash.me/$.
You know what I mean?
Go to patreon.com/
You know what I mean?
bounty.com/
You know what I mean?
and
Yanadameen.com/support.
oh, she's just,
Oh! Give me some!
anyway,
That's right.
so we back. When I pulled up to the studio today, I had heard some disturbing news real quick, and maybe y'all can fill me in a little more. But apparently, my boy Common came out with like a memoir or something and said that he was molested as a child. Y'all know about this?
Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, that's I don't know. That's disturbing. What's the apparent? Apparently, he was like on a set or something like that, and maybe something he was going through brought him flashbacks. Is that?
I'm not sure. I mean, he dropped a book, a memoir.
Okay.
And a lot of times with these books, you have to bring up something controversial.
Right.
And this was his controversial
Oh.
thing. Yeah, whenever these books come out, there has to be some sort of
It's got to be something.
gotcha kind of, headline,
Okay.
hot take, whatever. And this is what, this is what people are talking about right now.
Oh.
Usually the book deal is based on that.
Okay. Yeah. I see. I see.
Yeah.
Well, we were just talking about off camera, just the whole. You were saying
How commonplace it is for young men, well, boys. I'm not going to say young men, for young boys to be molested, and how it doesn't really get talked about now. I don't know too many instances of where it's happened with older men and younger boys, although I've seen instances of it. Like there was someone that I went to school with that was actually in my class, and we're talking like elementary school. So by the time I want to say maybe the early part of high school, or even maybe 8th grade, he got in trouble for messing with little boys. So and I know, I do know a couple of stories of where, like, some dudes had this happen to them when they were younger. But now there's a whole bunch of my boys that have shared stories of, like, getting molested by their babysitter or, like, their mom's friend, in a couple of cases, auntie, but this is something that apparently happens way more often than is talked about. And at one point in time, I feel like it was almost like, in the case of, like, the older woman molesting the younger boy, it's like, those are like cool points for the guy. Like, hey, I got my first blowjob when I was 8, shit
Listen,
like that.
I remember, like, kids that would say shit like, yo, my babysitter, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
Like,
let me suck on the
and
titties.
I can't lie, like, I used to think, damn, these niggas is lucky as fuck.
Oh my God!
I wish I could get me some older babysitter, Yeah, it never happened for me. But I heard about it though.
You seem pretty sad.
No. Because in retrospect, it's sick. We weren't looking at it as molestation though. See, now.
Yeah.
No,
in retrospect, hindsight is 20/20. So you're like,
crazy.
Okay, now that was some female rape, basically. Like that's pedophilia, basically. Like, but you wasn't thinking of that like that. You thinking like,
and then in turn,
some niggas is more thinking than others.
And then imagine one of these boys growing up to be men doing this to younger children. Like, now they are demonized. And, nobody is taking into account that.
But hopefully they wouldn't. I mean, see, I think a lot of those guys just feel like, listen, I just got exposed to sex early. I don't think that they grew up to be like pedophiles.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in the cases where, that happens. I mean, I guess R. Kelly would be an example of that, right?
Yeah, R. Kelly was molested.
Talking about being molested
by a female when he was younger.
And then, and of course, he, we have every right to demonize him, but I'm wondering if there's any consideration for, like, this probably fucked him up as a kid.
Well, I interviewed DeRay Davis, the actor, comedian. Right. And I remember I got a lot of grief about this, but he described how he was molested by these two horrible-looking 30-year-olds. The way he described
I saw that interview. I saw that
I kind of laughed when he said it because he said these horrible. Like, the way he described them.
Now, kind of like.
I saw that interview.
And people got mad at me for laughing, but
yeah,
because the way he described it, me and him talked about it. He's like, no, I understand you laugh because of the way I described it.
I meant to make
that happened to him. I just interviewed Bill Duke, the actor director, and we talked about how in his book, at like 10 years old, him and his sister were molested by a babysitter, like a neighbor who lived in the neighborhood, and about how she threatened to kill them if they told their parents, and then luckily she showed up to work one late too many times, so the dad fired her, and it was like the best day of their lives. Happens all the time to young boys,
all
man.
the time.
Michael Jai White, I think he was like 15 when he had his first child to like a 22-year-old. She tried to take him to like court for child support, and then when the judge looked at the ages of both people, he's like, "What the fuck are y'all even doing here? Like, get this shit out of my courtroom."
That's crazy.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yep.
And
I got a homeboy had his first baby at 14.
Yeah. I think, from my point of view, I think what happens is that when you have these families who are struggling financially, they end up leaving their kids with people they're not 100% sure are going to be okay. A neighbor, you shouldn't leave young children with a neighbor.
Right.
Grandparents are okay, aunts and uncles are usually okay, but then even with that, it's kind of sketchy. Right. Like, would you leave a little girl with a male uncle? Maybe, maybe not. you know, and a lot of times, but it's like, well, I have to go to work. I can't afford a nanny. I can't afford proper daycare, so I just need to have this work.
And then a lot of times you can't trust the daycares. You can't even trust the daycares nowadays.
Yeah. Well, there's also the assumption of innocence until proven guilty. Like a lot of times, you're not going to suspect that. I don't think someone's leaving their child, regardless how much money they have, if they even thought that there was a possibility that something might happen to their child by leaving them with this person, I don't think they do it. What I'm saying is a lot of times we just assume that everybody is normal. You see what I'm saying? That everybody thinks the way we think.
You know, but I know, like, you know, I know people that had like drug addict parents, and just these stories of like them just leaving. You know, like the mother would go and leave them.
Yeah, well, that's a different. Drug addict parents and just not having a lot of money is two different things.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying like, but here's another situation like that. You have this, you know, this woman who needs to go.
Oh well, those are the people that are primed for getting their children molested and all that, and they'll might even sell their children into fucking some shit.
And in these situations, I hear these stories of how like. Yeah, my mom left me with this random guy I'd never met before, and he was really mean, and you know.
Oh, I used to.
That type of shit, where it's just like.
Yeah, I've seen some heartbreaking shit during the crack era.
So
I've seen some shit.
I'm so blessed. My mother and father, they were like the greatest parents ever. Like I had my childhood best friend, like. I couldn't figure out for the life. Like, I used to always want to spend a night at her house because there was never any adults there. And she always wanted to spend a night at my house.
Oh, you told
I told this to me, because, like, you know,
adults there.
I had mom and dad, dinner, Barbie dream house, and everything. So, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me, like,
stable.
Yeah, I'm like, why you want to stay at my house? I want to go to your house, and you know, it wasn't.
Where shit is carefree.
No, and yo, I used to think she was the shit. Like she used to, like she was a little hustler. Like she used to have a little can and pretend she was collecting money for the drill team scouts, and she would just have all this money at the end of the night. Like I thought she was the shit, and it wasn't until I got older I realized like. Yo, she had to do that to like buy dinner for her and her little sister. You know, like the reality of the situation. I was just oblivious to all of that, being that, you know, I was in such a stable and loving environment. So it's rough out. It's rough out here.
Yeah, well, shout out to Common, man. Like,
God bless the child has all, and I hope he's gotten the proper like healing and therapy that he needs, because it's definitely, you know, that's not something that you forget, like, ever in life.
Right. And I don't think you should be ashamed about some shit that happened to you as a child either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're taken advantage of as a child and all that, you shouldn't feel any kind of shame or guilt. It's probably good that he came out, you know what I mean? And let that be known.
And I hope the situation is being treated with the care and the respect. Like, one thing I do hate about present day times is like you get these trolls and these online people, you know, just saying real like spiteful shit in the comments. Like I hope he's not dealing with any of that, and you know, just God bless him. I hope, you know, I hope he gets all the healing and therapy that's necessary. And cop that book, man. Support. I think it's good to see like artists like now, you know, we're approaching certain ages where we have a lot of history and stuff to talk about and share and just knowledge to pass on. I would like to see more artists dropping books, and because we didn't have the social media and stuff, so we didn't really have all of that age of transparency going on when we were coming up. So people don't know unless we're doing podcasts now. You know, shouts out to you. You know, you definitely bring a lot of exposure to a lot of the pioneers. I think honestly, the segments that we did, a lot of people said to me like, "Yo, I had no idea that about you." There's always been like this mystique with me. You know, I was the chick in Buster's Clique, and you know the outsiders, and they know I rap my ass off, but nobody really knew my story. Like, at one minute I was on my way, and the next minute it was just crickets. Like, what happened? You know? So that was dope, man.
And see, because I think certain artists, right, especially from our era.
The Tell All book is coming. I'm gonna let y'all know what the fuck going on with these albums. That motherfucking Flip Mode Squad albums.
Like there was, okay. Like there were certain artists that it seemed like they were an open book. You know, the Tupacs and just like. It seemed like you kind of knew who they were from their music and all of that too.
Right.
Like they would put a lot of their self, their life, even like a Nas, it would be very introspective type of rap.
Right.
Where someone like yourself, even myself, like
it wasn't.
We weren't rapping more about ourselves so much. Like I'm always talking about a topic, so pop, whatever the fuck.
You were kicking,
and I'm coming with the knowledge.
I was trying to battle motherfuckers.
And you're coming with the rap shit, so you're not gonna necessarily get
our
sense of not just only our story, but even a lot of our full personality. You almost might get one side. So now when you sit down with someone like Vlad, and people's like, wait a minute, like. This guy or woman, they're kind of interesting beyond just that one dimension that I knew them before. You see what I'm saying? And I think by doing this, it for the artist that wasn't an open book, this is great because this actually shows another dimension of yourself. And for some people, that's good. You know what I mean?
You know what I get a lot of? I had no idea you were so feminine. I get that a lot. Because I don't know, I guess just listen to my album.
Yeah, we thought you was a butch.
No, seriously. They think I'm like...
Thought you was a tomboy.
Or even when they see me in person, they be like, oh, God, I had no idea you were so dainty. Like, they hear the voice, and they just, they paint this mental picture that doesn't...
I think you are a little more girly.
Then it comes off in the
like,
music.
once I got around you was definitely a little more girly than I thought too, probably.
Yeah. Now, I'm not girly, but definitely...
And that's what we like.
Yeah.
That's what we like. Don't get crazy. We need you a little rough around the edges sometimes.
You're not young M.A.
Not young M.A.
Hey, there will be no young M.A. slander in this motherfucker today.
So listen.
It's my girl.
As far as you said something about passing on knowledge earlier and all of that, which is great. A topic that I know my man Vlad is very passionate about and likes to pass knowledge on about is stocks and the stock market and that whole space. So I want to give Vlad a chance to,
educate our viewers.
Yeah, educate our viewers on what do you think a good stock looks like as far as something maybe in your everyday life that, you know what, I fuck with this a lot. Maybe I can invest in that.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe you got stocks that you recommend. I don't know. Now, disclaimer, he's not a fucking stock professional or whatever. So
he's
anything
not
that you get from him, don't fucking blame us if you fucking lose money. Okay? I don't know if that's the professional way to say it.
Well, yeah, I'm not a financial advisor, so I cannot give stock advice. Period.
Right. Okay.
At all. The only thing I could do is say
what
I like and what I would do in a particular situation, and so forth.
And your judgment on certain things.
What I have found, and this is something Warren Buffett has said. Warren Buffett, who is considered the greatest stock investor of all time, he's made more money in the stock market than anybody in the history of the stock market that's been around, for way before he was even born.
And you're like a Warren Buffett guru.
I'm
like
a Warren. I look
worship
up to,
at the altar of Warren.
Absolutely, 100%. Because when I first started investing, the first thing I did was try to figure out who the Michael Jordan of stock investing was, and it was Warren Buffett. So the first book I read was his biography called The Snowball Effect. And what he said that when he dies, the person who's in charge of his, billions of dollars, they have very clear instructions. And that is to put 90% of that money into the S&P 500, which is a collection of the top 500 biggest companies in America.
So is that like escrow?
No.
No.
Escrow is like where you put your money while it's going through a transaction, like a home,
and it's just holding it.
purchase. The S&P stands for Standard and Poor. It was a company that tracked, the stock market, historically. So it's the top 500 companies in America. So most companies that you know the name of are in that. Google, Apple, 3M. General Motors, et cetera, et cetera. So you essentially get you get the diversity of 500 different companies.
Okay.
So if one company does really bad, you have 499 companies that are doing okay. So it kind of evens out. And also these companies the S&P 500 has a dividend, meaning that every 3 months, a company could either take its profits and pay it out to the shareholders, which is you being a shareholder of the company.
Receive no dividend.
Or they can reinvest it back in the company. So new companies like Google and Amazon, they take those dividends and reinvest it back in the company, try to make the company bigger and more valuable. Other companies like AT&T that have been around for about 100 years, they've had a dividend that's been stable for like 100 years, where you know that every 3 months you're going to get a chunk of money from that company. So if I was brand new into stock investing and I just want to get my feet wet and figure out how this works, I would put, a certain chunk of money into the S&P 500 and just watch how it does over time. And
so is that like a broad stroke? So when you're saying put it into the S&P 500, that means put it into one of those companies.
No. If there's one stock that you could buy, like for example,
that's like a general S&P.
Yeah, it's called VO. Like for example,
there you go. Break that down.
VOO, Victor Oscar, which you could buy that, and it'll give you a piece of every company just with one share of VOO. Will get you a piece of all 500 all at once.
Nice. Okay. See, now that's something that I think a lot of people wouldn't even know about. Yeah. I don't think I've ever even heard of that.
And the thing about stocks like VOO, they're called index funds.
Okay.
Which means there's two types of funds. There's an index fund, which means that it's just run by a computer. A computer calculates what the top 500 companies are and then mushes it all together for you. Then there's something called a mutual fund. A mutual fund is actually run by a person with a team, where every day or every week they're making moves, selling stuff, buying stuff, or whatever. A mutual fund has that person needs to get a check at the end of the year. And they're probably managing millions, if not billions, of dollars. So,
and then we have slush funds.
Slush funds, I don't know. But basically, that person gets a check, and those mutual funds have a fee associated with it, maybe a few percentage points a year. Whereas an index fund is run by a computer, and the expense rate is like 0.0001% or something like that. So essentially, when you look at index funds versus mutual funds, most times index funds will do better because there's no fee associated with it. But overall, it does about the same. So that would be my, if I were investing my money and I'm first getting into stocks, and I'm not telling you to do this.
Right.
So don't get sued.
Look at that one.
I'm not telling you to do this. Not because I'm not a financial advisor. But if I were looking for a place to get started and put a relatively safe place to put my own money that's been showed, because at any point in time, if you put your money into the S&P 500, if you waited a year or two, it always recovered and made its money back and then some.
Now let me ask you this.
Hey, we got to wrap it up.
Okay. Now, say I'm just an average, hardworking American.
Yes.
Tax return time. I got my little punk ass $1,400, $1,600 back.
Right.
Could I take that and buy a VOO stock?
Yeah. Yeah, VOO. I should look it up real quick. Let me see what VOO is at. Hold on one sec.
Because if Warren Buffett is saying take 90% of his money and put it in, like
VOO,
like what would be a realistic like?
VOO is currently at $264 per share.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you want to throw your whole $1,400 in, you can do that. If you want to spend $200,
no. If I had $1,400 that I wanted to invest in, there's actually if you want to go to YouTube, if you search Vlad stocks on YouTube, I actually made 9 videos where I broke down the various basic parts of stock investing, and one of the parts is how much should I start with, and if it was me, I would pick an amount of money that I know that I won't have to touch for at least a year or two.
See, and that's what I meant by escrow.
Yeah.
I didn't exactly pose it right, but that's what I meant. Like it would go somewhere where it just sits.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because
and let it work.
What I've been investing now for about 10 years. What I've always found is that this game always works. The stock investing always works best when you just don't do anything. You let it sit there. You let it grow slowly. If you're jumping in and out constantly, it never really will work out. Between the taxes and the fees and everything else like that, I've always found that it doesn't work out. So the whole point is that if you have $1,400, if I had $1,400 to invest, if I know that a few months from now I may need to use some of that to pay a phone bill.
Well, $1,400 minus that, you're gonna buy.
Right.
You're gonna get yourself.
Right. So that's the whole thing. If I know that I have to chip away at that at some point within the next few months, I probably don't want to put that amount in, because you may need that at the point where the market is at the lowest point,
right,
and you end up losing out because you're not selling at a relatively good time.
So basically, you gotta, so I guess figuratively, it would be escrow. You have to look at it as money that you don't touch, that you don't need right now, that you can basically give away temporarily.
My greatest wins in my own portfolio has been in stocks that I haven't touched in 7-8 years.
Well, listen, people,
dope.
What you need to invest in is Yanadameen Godcast. Okay? Fuck the bullshit. Listen, we appreciate you, Vlad.
Word. Dope, man.
Shit, what's all your online shit? What, DJ Vlad?
Vlad TV on
Instagram.
Y'all know me on Twitter.
Hit me in the comments.
VladTV.com, YouTube.com/VladTV.
There you go.
Just Vlad TV all around.
Yo, my bro.
Once again.
Leave me hanging, I'm choking, man.
Oh, my bad.
Thank you for coming through.
Thanks for having me.
And once again,
from the Yanadameen Godcast,
I'm Lord Jamar.
I'm Digga.
Peace.